Hey, what's up, everybody? So we're at the theater tonight, and we are seeing Evil Dead Rise. I've been looking forward to this movie very, very, very much. I really like the Evil Dead franchise. I don't think there's been a bad Evil Dead movie. Even the remake, I absolutely love. I think it's a lot of fun. The more I've seen it, the more I like it. So I'm looking forward to actually seeing this one. Now, in general, it seems like it's favorable with the audience versus the critics, but I think the critics that don't like it are the type that don't like horror movies. So they're kind of dragging everything down. So I'm just hoping that it's a solid movie, that it's fun, that the humor is there that's in the franchise, and from what I understand, that the gore is really high. And there's one scene that I am not looking forward to seeing, and even now my legs are like aching because of the damn thing. So let's go, let's see it, and let's hope that we have a lot of fun. See you when I get back. Hey everybody, so I'm back from Evil Dead Rise, and it's been a while since I've recorded in this area, and now I've got cats still. I've still got pets coming in through this thing, but hey, if you haven't seen the studio in a while, here's the studio where we do everything, and I'm trying not to like look over to the side and see myself recording everything like that, so I'm supposed to be looking directly into the camera for everything that's going on, but, all right, so first off, I'm gonna talk spoilers on this, just because I want to talk about the movie, like overall, what I really liked. And it's hard to talk about the movie in terms of what I really liked and what I didn't like so much without doing spoilers. I feel for this movie. So if you haven't seen Evil Dead Rise, this is your warning. And I really think that you should see this film. I'm just going to tell you that right away. If you really want to know everything, this is a very solid movie. If you're a horror fan, if you're a fan of the Evil Dead franchise, go see it. Acted well. It is. It has a good story for what it's doing, and the fact of I was a little wary with the whole thing being set inside this apartment building and doing all these types of things, but it does an excellent job. Excuse me, of just like keeping the pace and like getting everything out there and just being a fun movie overall. And again, if you are a fan of the Evil Dead franchise at all, from the remake, if you're only a fan of the remake, you should still see this. If you've been a fan of everything, you should see this. If you were not a fan of the remake or the whatever you want to call it, then you would still want, I think you would still want to see this. This is a movie made by a horror fan for horror fans. That's what I'm going to say. So if you don't want anything spoiled, now here is your official warning, and you basically know in general what I think about this movie. So let's talk about Evil Dead Rise. Again, this movie's fantastic. I want to talk about the stuff that I didn't like very much in the movie first, so I can get that way out of the way, and then we can gush over how much I absolutely love this movie. Character choices in this movie are dumb. It's one of the few things that I did not like about this movie. The little girl Cassie, I'm not talking about the actress that played her. She just makes some really dumb decisions, and you've seen everything that goes on. Even if you're a little kid, and I know that you can be tricked into things, but it still is like, come on. And you see it in the trailer as well, where she's like, her mom's like asking her to open up the door, and she's obviously turned into a deadite, and you have the whole thing, yet Cassie is still there like, well, okay, I'm going to go over there, I'm going to open up the door, and hey, Mom, okay, come on in, it looks like everything's fine. Oh, okay, Dad's back, oh, let's do that. That's basically it, is just stupid character choices. You have some of the side characters that are there, just do some dumb things. One of the deaths is a little stupid. It's silly, so I give it a pass because it's silly. But if you look back at it, I'm like, no, it's just that's the weakest one in the whole movie. And how are you going to do that to a character? So that would be the one that I'd be like, no, let's just stay away from that, and let's not do that one, and actually get a better death for this character, considering that the brother of this character dies decently, and it's surprising. So that's really it for me personally. Is it enough to not get a whole point? Kind of. It's just, and I don't think that it's the bad stuff. I would say for me is knocking it a whole point, just because of its, like, I'm mentioning two things that I find really bad with the movie. I think that it's just missing something for that one point, for that point in the thing. And as we go through me talking about it in here, and who knows, maybe I'm going to give it that point. Maybe I'm going to do my thing I don't like to do and give half points. I don't know, but I know where I have a solid set and a solid thought for this movie, for where it went. So before I get into the good, what is the story of this? So you have, you have two sisters. You have Beth and Ellie, and you have Beth coming back into town, or coming to see her sister because she finds out that she's pregnant, and she wants to get advice from her sister and help, but she doesn't realize that her sister is going through a separation a couple months ago, because she's more like focused on her and not necessarily is focused on everybody else. And there's even one point in the movie where she's like, I don't know what to do because you have always been there for me and always helped me, and here I am and I don't even know how to face your kids and to do that. So there's two things that are going on in the movie. One, the deterioration of the family that's going on due to the whole evil thing, and her actually stepping into the role of the mother, Beth stepping into the role of the mother, and becoming a mom basically at the end of the movie, when she's kind of she's going to be becoming a mom in like her everyday life, but her actually doing for herself, and also, saving herself but saving the others, and figuring out how to get to that point. And even though there's going to be hardships and trials and failures, ultimately she's going to come through and make it through. And it's kind of like the symbolism in my mind of having a child, right? There's always going to be struggles. There's always going to be, nobody is a child or a parent, right? Everybody's a parent by choice for the most part. I'm not going to say everybody, but everybody's a parent when they have their first kid for the very first time, and nobody knows how they're going to handle it when they're a parent. And I see the overall arching story of this movie of her finding out that she's pregnant and maybe not wanting to be a parent, doesn't know what she's going to do, but by the end of the film, she's become strong enough and she's handled these challenges to where she's accepting that, yeah, I'm going to become a mom. And because of what happens with her sister, as we know in the trailer, she's also going to become a mother to Cassie, who is going to be your, again, I said spoilers. So she's going to be your lone survivor out of everybody that we meet in the movie, even somebody that we meet in the beginning. This opening to this movie is one of my favorite openings, like, to a horror film that I have seen in the longest time, because it pays homage to Evil Dead at the same time, with the floaty camera and going around, and then you get the fake out because it's a drone. I really like that. I'm like, that's really cool that they're doing it like this, because it gives you that creepy crawly vibe. And then it's just a guy that's a douchebag that's there, and she's like, oh, my friend's not feeling well. Aren't you going to take care of her? Because that's like her boyfriend, and then none of the boyfriend's friends shows up. And then it just goes fucking like nuts right away when she's going there and she's reading Wuthering Heights. And I was like really trying to read into the whole thing. She's reading Wuthering Heights, but I feel it's only being used for the one passage that the friend like states again. And then it just like, it goes balls out when she rips her scalp off, right? The friend of the one that wants to get away, and because she's trying to be helpful, and she's like, oh, can I just take your car and get the hell out of here since you're going to be there with him? And she didn't even want to go either. So, but it's a great opening, and you get a little bit of it from the trailer when you see the girl on the dock and she throws the scalp on the ground, and you kind of know what's going on. And then it shifts to, to Beth, and Beth learning about her pregnancy and all the other stuff that go on. So, fucking Alyssa Sutherland is so fucking awesome. And the reason why I wanted to do it up here is because I want to give these people, the actors and actresses that are in this movie, I want to give them all fucking credit, because they are hands down like some of the best horror actors that I have seen. And it's not just even that they act in a horror movie. It's just that they're all good. The only person that I would say is Morgan Davies as Danny. I would say he's the weakest out of everybody, but I like the scenes that he's in. Even Gabriel Echoes or Gabrielle Eccles. I know I'm gonna fuck up names. If you know me, I fuck up names. As Bridget, she is really good too. But the second star of this movie is Nell Fisher, who's being introduced in this as Cassie. She's fucking phenomenal for a kid. When you talk about kids in horror movies, there are only a select few of kids that you would say are just excellent. And she is beyond phenomenal in this movie. And I really, really liked her performance. I mean, it's hard when you have other powerhouses. And the thing is, you have Lily Sullivan as Beth, and she does a good job too. And it's a good cat and mouse thing that Ellie and Beth have once Ellie has turned into a deadite and has been possessed in this thing. But Ellie is so good. Alyssa Sutherland is so goddamn good into what she had to do for this movie, from the pre being possessed to the actual possession scene, which is brutal as hell, and then to being the Deadeye and just mocking Beth and knowing exactly what to say, just like it's the evil side of her sister's, like everything that her sister wants to actually tell her directly, but doesn't, because that's your family member. And even though you every now and then you will say something or you use something because either something slips out or it's just a hard thing that they have to hear, you'll tell them, but the Deadeye itself uses that against her, and uses that as a manipulation tactic and everything for that, including the good things with the children and even some of the good things with her, But I just, the performance, I just cannot stress at how amazing. The smile that she puts on is one of the creepiest fucking smiles that I've seen in a while in a horror movie. And, they had some good ones in Smile, but those ones were, I would have to say, they're assisted. She does this shit herself to me with the makeup and everything. Maybe there's a little bit of makeup that makes things a little accentuated, but it's almost like looking, and I know this is going to sound bad, but I mean this in a very good way. It's almost like looking at a perfect Grinch smile, like a smile from the Grinch when he's like grinning and he's got those big giant, the everything pulls up, and even with the wrinkles and all that stuff where it's so devilish, and he's just like, yeah, I know, I'm going to get this. I'm going to get what I want. That's exactly what she does when she's possessed. The movie's not ruined by the trailer per se. Overall, I mean, it's a very basic story, to be honest with you, and there are some surprises that happen, but really the Red Band trailer kind of shows some of the bigger parts, and even though I knew things were coming, it still was really good. Like, I still was gripped into it, and I just forgot even the trailer. I forgot that I had seen it before, even though I knew that I had seen it before. And there are some things that, again, I start to think about one of the big scenes in the movie, and one of the things that everybody's like, oh, the kitchen appliance thing, the cheese grater on the fucking leg, like, that still gets me. It's not that bad in terms of what you see, but it's just, for me, it's the idea of it happening, and it just makes my leg fucking like twitch and everything right now, which it's just like nails in the feet for me. It's the highlights too. I applaud a director and a studio and a writer. I mean, it's all written by Lee Cronin. I mean, this is fantastic. I want to see the next fucking horror movie that he does. And the thing is that I've seen A Hole in the Ground, which is fucking fantastic. If you haven't seen A Hole in the Ground, 1, watch it. 2, check out the podcast that I did on it. He does such good, like, he just knows how to manipulate things and how to manipulate your feelings and how to actually have fucking scares in a horror movie. How many horror movies do you see today where there aren't genuine feelings of tension that get relieved by a scare? And I'm not talking about just a jump scare. I'm talking about real scares. Also, he has the balls to fuck up kids, okay? That one kid gets thrown across the fucking thing to like be killed. And the worst one is, so it's a younger brother of this like kid that's trying to hit on Bridget, and he's coming to the door and he's like, so we're going to watch all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. even the bad ones, the brother says, there are no bad ones. You know, you want to come over and hang out and watch them with us? Hey. But it's like that type of thing. And then he dies because his brother, I guess his older brother or whatever, this one of the other guys, gets his fucking like eyeball eaten out by fucking Ellie. And then she spits it up because she's choking on it as the deadite. And she spits it up and spits into his mouth and he chokes to death on the eyeball. It's not gruesome. And yeah, I get it. It's a young kid, you know, and the young kid dies and everything like that. But it's kind of like almost like an off-screen type of kill that I'm just like, if you had the balls to do something else, because moments later, then his brother is flying across the screen, his much younger brother, and being in a, you know, I would say that he's probably like 15, and then the younger brother's like 13 maybe, or 12, and he's thrown across and fucking slammed against a wall and fucking killed. It's not like super brutal or anything, but it's more brutal than the older brother gets. And the stuff that happens with Bridget, she's kind of the middle child, so I'm, in terms of ages, like, Danny, the oldest child, he's the one that's the driving age, and then you have her, the middle child. So I'm saying that he's like 16, 17, right? I don't think that he's meant to be like an 18-year-old because it seems like he still has school and stuff like that. And she's meant to be more like 15, maybe 16, because they're talking about her getting her license. And then the youngest one, of course, is the youngest out of all of them. And so you are fucking up younger teenagers, right? And even, you know, Cassie gets choked for a little while in the film, thrown around. She almost gets something put into her face. The tattooing scene, I think that, and you see it in the trailer, and it's brutal because Ellie takes the tattoo gun. And like, and there's so many things that get set up. I know I'm jumping all over the place, but I just really, really enjoyed this movie. But you know, she's got Beth pinned down and she's got the tattoo gun and she's got it going, and you think that she's going to be shoving in her face because you see in the trailer, oh, she's going to put in her eye. But no, the first thing that she does is she sticks it into her head, and then she takes it and she brings it close to her eye. And the reason that she's doing that is because when we find out later with Bridget, you can kind of put two and two together. Maybe you don't get it right away. It's because she's getting like the infection or the possession as like the ink and then putting it on her face as she tattoos it directly. It's fucking cool. And it's little subtle things like that happen. Even with how the movie ends and how the Deadite is ultimately killed, there's a setup for it. And I'm like, oh, that's going to be used later on in the film. And I was trying to figure out where it was going to be. It was a game of, how is this going to be used? You're showing me something that is definitely going to be used in a kill or defense or attack or something. How are you going to use it? That was the game, not, oh, it's going to be used. Okay. No, it's where it's going to be done. How are you going to do it? Because I was so enthralled and kept in with the story as everything was moving on and with the action. Now, the gore in the movie, you know, in my mind, I feel that, so I have to compare this to Fede Alvarez's Evil Dead, right? We have to compare these two because even though Sam Raimi's can be kind of gory, it was more goofy gore. I would put it in that thing. We have giant spouts of fucking blood coming up, and you know, you have him even when he cuts off his arm or his hand, and then you know he's not really bleeding everywhere, but it's goofy because he's trying to attack the hand and trying to destroy everything, you know, that type of stuff. It's not super gooey, goopy gore. And then you go to Fede Alvarez's fucking Evil Dead, and that shit is blood everywhere, and some really up close, uncomfortable things, and just mountains, and it is over the top blood and just raining blood constantly. It's like a Slayer song playing in the fucking background, you know, but it's now Slayer song visualized up there, and you have all of that and everything like that's going on, but there isn't some of the up close gore. There's a couple of things. There's the stuff in the eye, which it still gets to me, and that type of thing, but it's not, you know, it's not what this is. This is gory in a way that things are a little more up close and personal. I mean, like the eyeball being bitten off the guy's face. There are some, you know, there's intestines, and there are amounts of the worst one in them is, well, there's a couple besides the cheese grater. The cheese grater, like I said, it doesn't look that bad, but it's still a cheese grater going against the leg, and that's what gets me. But the glass in the throat is pretty intense too when you see it for the first time, because Bridget's on the counter and she's barfed up fucking maggots, which is fucking. If you're an emetophobe, please avoid parts of this movie, because it's not. There's 3 parts where it's not for emetophobes at all. And if you don't know what a emetophobe is, it's somebody that is afraid or can't see vomit, right? Or vomiting, and that happens at 3 points in this movie. One very early on where it's more like spit up than anything else, but then there's a scene with Ellie where she barfs a bunch of liquid all over the floor, and then there's the maggot scene where Bridget's face, as you see the infection, it slowly starts to spread across her face, and then her nose starts leaking black stuff, and her eyes and her mouth, everything's leaking, and then she pukes a little again, and on the counter it's black puke, but it's all maggots and everything in there. It's fucking gruesome and gross and fantastic. But I would, in terms of the blood and some of the goriness of it, I would say it's on par or a little bit below the Evil Dead remake from the 2000s. I think that one's actually a little more gory than this is. It's not to say it's not brutal. I think this is a little more brutal than that is. But in terms of like blood fountains and shit like that, this has some scenes. It's every fucking Evil Dead movie has to end with a fucking chainsaw in one way or another. And of course, this is no fucking different, where you have the chainsaw that's there and you're just, oh yeah. And they do some great lines from the movie too, which I just really love from the original movie. And there's no groovy, you can't get Ash to do that, but it's just, you have so much fun with this movie. And I think, like I said, if you're a horror fan, I think that you're just gonna love it. You're gonna love the fact that it actually has scares in it. The scene in the hallway where she's like trying to convince, as much as I think that Cassie, that scene was stupid, and I know she's a young kid and she's just being a dumb young kid, the way that that's played out, how she's like sitting there and she's like talking to her, and then she goes and leans to look out the door, and then when Ellie realizes, oh, I got her, she just jumps up so fast and then turns around, and then it's that creepy long face with the blood that's all over her stomach and coming down the sides of her face, and the red hair that's all disheveled, and the way the eyes look and stuff like that. And it's like, how could you not know that she's like not well and your mom's possessed over here, and you're still going to open up the stupid door for her, but just the performance at that moment, from Melissa Sutherfield, is so strong and so powerful, and just how she's looking through it, and even how it's framed in the fisheye lens from the little door, eye hole that you look at when you look at people that are outside your front door and stuff like that. It's so cool. And even like the little bits of blood around the side where she's beating she's beating her own head into the door, and you get a little bit of that blood. Like, there's so much small attention to detail and little things in this movie that are just so fucking cool that it's hard not to like this movie. It's hard not to like the things that you see. And there is the other thing that's kind of dumb is at the end of the movie, after the big final confrontation, because the stuff at the beginning of the movie happens the day before, and you find out how the girl gets infected, and it's like she's just not paying attention. But the fact that they're up on the top floor, which is the 14th floor of the high rise, and then this girl lived on the 5th floor, and the stairs are all destroyed between there, and she doesn't bother to look up, but for her, she's able to walk down just fine. So I don't know if they only broke and they were trying to capture them on that floor together. That's where I kind of reach with that, oh, they were just trying to stop them from escaping because she wants to torture the family, right? She wants to get them, and they summoned this demon, and it took over the mom, and she's going to kill everybody. They do the Dead by Dawn thing too. Everybody's going to be dead by dawn, dead by dawn, dead by dawn. I was like, oh my God, that's so fucking cool to have these things. Oh my God, so many great. The bathtub scene is fucking fantastic too. And you see it again. This is kind of in the trailer, but it has more to it because they thought she was dead. Again, I keep jumping to things. There's a great little thing there too, where she's been dead, and the guy goes and he puts his fingers over her eyes, and then she pops the eyes open really fast, and he's like, Okay, and he wants to say a prayer after he's done that because he's already fucking freaked out. Um, the one thing with the cat that's there, it's silly. I wish that more was done with the cat for everything that went on in that little scene. Like, I really feel like they could have done more with it. At least not. You don't have to kill the cat. Like the cat, it was just like, oh, the cat gets up into the ducks that are upstairs, and that's how the Deadite mom decides how, Ellie figures out how to get back into the apartment. And the thing I like how so there's one thing I want to talk about at the end, and it's more or less like, where can we go from here? And I think things that I've read that I hope maybe could be true at someday, but they, the way they do the book, I think it's kind of cool because they find the book after an earthquake happens in Los Angeles. And then, Danny goes down there. He finds an old vault. There's no money, but there's a bunch of crosses and fucking coins that are protection coins all over the goddamn place where the book is. And you're just like, oh, I'm going to take this book and I'm going to take these records. And then you're going to play it. And the very first, again, this is like stupid character things. This pisses me off more than it does with Cassie type things. But you're going to play the first record where like, we have found the Book of the Dead, and we want to be able to study this, to translate this so that we can blah, blah, blah. And then they're all, boo, boo, I said boo to you, sir. And they're basically like, don't do it. Destroy the book. Bury the book. Get rid of the book. And of course, the priest is like, well, I'm going to just translate this thing in secret over here, and I'm going to record it onto this record, and, say the words, and now that's going to summon everything, and he's just like, but he plays it. There's like 3 records, and he plays the first one with all that shit, and it's just like, should I really play that second one? And a normal person would be like, no, don't play that bullshit. And he's like, well, I guess I'm going to play the second record, and he plays the second record and unleashes the fucking demons. So overall, I think that, again, this movie, it's so much fun. It's a great horror movie. It has real scares in it. It has, without having to resort to just cheap jump scares. It's very creepy. It's got the humor of the whole series into it. I was worried that it was going to be a lot more serious. I love the Evil Dead movies because there is a good injection of humor, not into like goofiness or stuff, but included in the horror. And there were plenty of scenes, and again, this is a credit to Alyssa Sutherland, where that character, Ellie's character after she's been possessed, is fucking hilarious. And some of it is hilarity because of the situation, and some of it is hilarity that just comes from how the acting is done and the dialogue that is written. Lee Cronin, right now, to me, between these 2 films, cannot do no wrong. I really want to see what he's doing next, and for what that he wants to do. And it's like I said, it's an overall good movie. Now, before I give the rating, because I want to do it at the end and then do all the other shit that I normally do with these things, but the one thing that struck out to me with this is something that was said within the Priest records. Okay, and if you haven't seen it, this would be something, I don't know if it's a major spoiler, but it's something to think about. I think if you have seen it, I think it's something to think about. They say there are 3 different books of the dead, right? He says, this is one of the 3 books of the dead that we found. And there was talk that I believe Lee Cronin was saying that he approached Sam Raimi and says, what if we did something between you, Fetty, and I, and create one movie where we bring the worlds together? And this is a way, kind of, and maybe he was already thinking about it, but this is a way that you have Ash's world, Bruce Campbell's world is one book. And then you have Ashley from the Evil Dead from Fetty's world is another book. And here with Beth's book is the 3rd book, and everybody comes together. So you have these 3 protagonists come together at the end and actually fight the evil off, or bring them all together into one universe, or whatever you want to do. I think it would be cool. But the fact that there are multiple books, and this is how this is happening in all different places with different people, and it's a really interesting way of separating all the different versions of Evil Dead and people's experiences with the Book of the Dead, which I find phenomenal. That he at least added that little detail, and I'm focusing in on just that little detail because it's a cool thing that it is a pass-by note. period. It's not something that you would spend all this time looking at and looking into when it comes to this type of movie. But because it's so subtle and you could just forget about it, it sets up the reasons why they're doing these types of movies, or how this movie is done with no Ash, with no Ashley, and a whole new set of people in a totally different place. So, and in conclusion, go see this fucking movie, okay? This, and I'm going to do this. I wasn't going to do this before because I don't think that it is, but the more I think about it and the more I talk about it, it gets the point back. This is a solid 5 out of 5 eyeballs in the throat. It is just, and there's Charlie coming to say hello. You probably have not seen Charlie in one of the videos, but she's cat number 2. It's a solid movie. I mean, it's just fun. It's so good. It gets the rare 5 out of 5 from me because I liked it so much. I can't believe how much I really enjoyed this film, how I was laughing, how I was smiling at the things. Maybe some of the kills are a little weaker than they need to be, but I think that so many other subtle things in this movie that are done make up for it. I think the acting by all the main characters, like I said, I think Danny is probably the weakest, and he doesn't really have much to do other than be sad and kind of fucked up with some of the things. But, and Bridget is kind of in the same area too, but she gets that awesome scene where she's eating the glass and she's on the counter and like, there's stuff in my stomach. I need to get them out of there. And she's eating the glass. Don't you hate it when there's something in your stomach, Aunt Beth? And of course, she's talking about the baby. It's just like fucking cool things like that happen in this movie. That makes me so excited. So if you have not seen Evil Dead Rise, see Evil Dead Rise. Please, I beg of you. If you have to choose between multiple movies and you're like, I'm on the fence about seeing it, see it, please. I would love to have I would love Lee Cronin to do another Evil Dead movie. I would love the idea that they have and Charlie dropping shit all over the place. I don't love that. But the idea, if we were to bring all the universes together for one movie, even if it's like one final movie, anything like that, it would be great. But I don't think the Evil Dead franchise has had a bad film. I think that they're all top notch. I think you have your 3 greats by Sam Raimi. I think Fede Alvarez deserves more applause for Evil Dead, and if you go back to it, it's a better movie than you think that it is. And I didn't think it was going to be. I refused to see it in theaters because I'm like, they can't remake Evil Dead, and you're changing Ash over into a girl. What? And then I saw it, and I'm like, this is just a metaphor for addiction, right? Where this is a metaphor in becoming a mother. And I think that that's a solid film with some things that are still a little bit not quite right, but for a gore perspective, it's fantastic. But I think that Lee Cronin has crafted something here that's intricate, that's brutal, that's funny, that is cohesive from start to finish, he got such good performances out of everybody in this film. And to take somebody like Nell Fisher, to take her, a young girl that is doing her first role in this movie, and also not being afraid to take child actors and to put them through something that's intense and getting good responses back from the child actors, and then also not being afraid to fuck kids up. I applaud, and I think that there was the whole thing of the mother is something that's safe, and now the mother, and this is something that Lee Cronin said, now the mother is something that you can't be saved from. It hits hard, and I just feel that this movie it's well worth your time, and I would sing its praises, and I'm gonna keep singing its praises as from days to come. As a horror movie, this is just, it's so good. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you guys, if you have seen it, leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought, because I love this movie. Maybe you didn't. I want to know why you didn't, if you didn't. And I know a friend of mine, if you haven't checked out the Beyond the Void horror podcast, make sure that you find them. They're here on YouTube, as well as go check out their podcast just in general. Alex over there was talking about how these horror critics, or these critics that don't like horror movies, go review horror movies. And then they're like, oh, it's so tropey. Oh, it's this. And oh, I can't remember. It's like, why? I used to love, and I've said this before, I used to really love, the San Francisco Chronicle here Bay Area for movie reviews, because they were always fair and balanced to the way they did their movies, and I always matched the reviewer, one of the main reviewers, not Mick LaSalle, but I believe it was another guy. It's like Peter Travers. Peter Travers and I always kind of thought the same, so I didn't feel bad about reading Peter Travers, and I'm not saying every time, because, you know, while he's not the biggest horror fan in the world, like, he respected what people did, and if it was good, it was good. But how you have all these people, all these other critics, boom, 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 and then you just have to have your one dissenting review because it's too schlocky, it's too gory, it's too this. You're not a fan of horror. I get it. So why are you reviewing a horror movie? Because it's the biggest movie that's going to be out there? Because you want to be... The AV Club is one of the douchiest types of critics that you can find out there. I'm sorry if you work for the AV Club and you've seen this stuff. I do love you guys because of this, because sometimes that some of the reviewers can be a little pretentious, but I think it's written in there because it's the Onions thing. They like this a lot and gave it a B+ score, which for them, for a horror movie, is extremely high. I'm not saying this is like an IGN where you're giving it a 90 out of 100, because that's IGN's like B, you know, but it's just, please see it for yourself. And if you didn't like it, let me know why. Why didn't you like this movie? And if you did, let me know too. Let me know in the comments below. I know I've gone on for quite a bit longer than I probably should have at the end of this, but you guys need to really understand how much I like this movie. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't followed the podcast, make sure that you follow the podcast. It's all in the show notes there. And check out, we just did an episode on The Guyver, and The Guyver 2 Dark Hero is going to be the next episode of the show. And make sure that you also come over if you want. Anytime you see some of the videos that are on this channel, I'm always live Mondays and Tuesdays over on Twitch, twitch.tv/terribleterrors. Come over there. Come say hi. Come talk horror. If you want something that you said here, a comment that I try to reply to the comments, and no, there's not a whole lot, but when they do get up, I try to get to everybody. But if you have ideas about Evil Dead, come over. Monday night, we're going to be streaming. I'm going to be there playing Resident Evil 4. I might even be on sometime after I've recorded this review and it's been up. But Monday, I'll definitely be there. Tuesday, I do a misadventure where my friend Quentin and I, we go and we play co-op games, try to get other people to get joined in the co-op game as well. We're doing escape room stuff, which was actually pretty fun. It's not necessarily horror, but come over, chat, let us know what's going on, and we'll catch you next time. And yeah, as other people would say, take care of yourselves and each other, and go fucking see Evil Dead Rise. All right, later.